It's the Daily Dog.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Daily Doug. I am thankful that you are hanging out with me today as we finish the week. It's a Friday and we're going to let our hair down a little bit today with the Masterpiece Friday episode. And this one is going to be a little different than other Masterpiece Fridays that we have done on the channel because I've got the same song, but I've got 3 different versions of it. And to be honest, before a couple of weeks ago, I didn't know that versions 2 and 3 existed. I am talking about the Unforgiven from Metallica, and I am happy that you are with me. Of course, I have heard this one. I'm talking about the original, right? The Black Album was released as I was in my freshman year of high school, and the sounds of this album were ubiquitous. I couldn't avoid the sounds of the Metallica Black Album. What I didn't realize, though, was how this particular song spawned 2 different sequels. Both are named The Unforgiven. We've got The Unforgiven, The Unforgiven II, and The Unforgiven III. And when I brought up the thought of looking into this trilogy with some of our Patreon members a couple of weeks ago, there was mixed reaction to this, especially when it came to the question of whether the 3 songs were all the same or if each of them actually did have their own identity. And that really did spark my interest in wanting to do this episode, because I think that I'll have the musical vocabulary to speak to why some folks hear the songs as the same and some folks hear them differently. I'm very much interested in that, and I've never heard the second and third versions of this song, so I'm going to be intrigued to find out what is consistent and what is new in each of these songs' constructions. So let's get started with the original. This is the second single from the Black Album, which is their big best-selling album, right? It was released in the fall of 1991. This big breakthrough genre-busting album for Metallica, right? With hit songs like Inner Sandman and Nothing Else Matters, Wherever I May Roam, Sad But True, and then this song, The Unforgiven, a heavy ballad that has become one of their more known and performed tunes. So we've got, let's see, this way. We've got James Hetfield on vocals and rhythm and acoustic guitars. We've got Lars Ulrich on drums. Kirk Hammett is on lead guitar, and Jason Newsted is on the bass. So here, let's start at the beginning, friends. The Unforgiven 1 by Metallica. Off we go. Starts with that horn. I like the snare being used like a field drum, right? It's been a long time since I've heard this, but it comes right back. So this one's an A minor. And even though it's a ballad, the verse is pretty darn heavy. Vow unto his own that never from this day his will they'll take away. A minor. They dedicate their lives to running all of his. He's hearkening back to his childhood, right? And about how he was brought up in a very strict religious household. And he's been just told what to believe and told what to think and not allowed to really go for it himself, you know? There's a leading tone. Yeah. And even though we get the heavy verses, we still get a softer chorus, which is really cool. And it was one of the first times that I heard Metallica and actually got to hear James sing, like in an empathetic and really vulnerable way. So he's bringing his childhood into this, speaking about alienation and regret. Trying to please other people except yourself. Great solo from Kirk. Be my favorite Metallica song. I was really drawn to it in high school. I always thought he was singing, so I dug D-U-G, the Unforgiven, especially with the video. Remember the video? But he's dubbing, he's naming thee himself, Unforgiven. I dub thee Unforgiven. You labeled me, I will label you. And you get a real major 5 chord here instead of just a modal one. So it's got that real pull towards a resolution that he doesn't get as a person, you know, emotionally. Really great. So I think I'm going to stop this one before it moves into the next one. The video that I grabbed has all 3 of these. Let's see. So I'm going to, okay, so stop there. Good. So what about this one? Let's figure this one out before we dive into the Unforgiven II and see what it is about. Yeah, when I read in today, it came as a, of course. Why did I think that back in the day? I should have just looked the lyrics up. He's naming himself the Unforgiven. And it's a really sad story, right? I mean, his dad ends up, as I read in, leaving the family when he's a teenager, and then his mom passes a few years later of cancer, and he's grappling with his teachings, with the fact that his parents are now gone. I don't think he had a huge social kind of construct to help him out with a bunch of friends. And so how do you cope, right? You're a child and you're conditioned then to cope and conform through pain and suffering. That's all he knows. And then he vows to hold on to his will. And he ends up then never really living for himself. He's trying to please other people, and all that is pure and real that he has felt never shows up in his actions. And so now it's almost too late, and he's unwilling to show himself mercy, to forgive himself. And it's almost as if he is saying that society is just shunning me. I'm unforgiven by all of these people. It's a really sad tune, and it's one that I can, I think, understand a bit. I found a quote from producer Bob Rock talking about James' vocals on this song. Bob said that James had done a lot of screaming in the past, but now he wanted to go somewhere else. In the past, he had always doubled his vocals. He didn't sing harmonies per se. He just sang the same thing on another track. And I told James that we should record his vocal, but instead of him listening to it back on headphones, he should listen on speakers. And the difference was amazing. He sang the entire song, and because he heard himself in a different way, there was this whole new dimension to his voice. It was big and deep and warm and just jumped right out at you. And that's what I got from that. When I was a high school kid and not really interested in metal music, and I knew of Metallica and of course of this album, and then I heard The Unforgiven, I'm like, that's a song and a sound that I can get behind. I really, really enjoyed it. So let's move forward to The Unforgiven II. This was released on Reload, their 7th album, released in 1997. So we're 6-7 years later, right? And we have the same lineup of musicians as we had before. So I don't know. There's different lyrics. In the chorus, as I see here, it starts with what I've felt, what I've known, like we're used to hearing him. But then the words are different. So this will be a first-time listen for me. Let's dive into The Unforgiven II. Off we go. Same opening. That's the chorus chord progression. And they're down a half step from where they were. Leading tone to G sharp minor.
Tell me what they've done and speak the words I wanna hear to make my demons run. The door is locked now, but it's open if you're
sharp.
true.
Yeah.
If you can understand me, then I can understand you. Lay beside me under wicked sky, through black of day, dark of night.
Harmony part.
We share this paralyzed. The door cracks open, but there's no sun shining through. Like hot scarring darker steel, but there's no sun shining through. No, there's no sun shining through. No, there's no sun shining.
Black heart scarring dark.
What I've known.
Okay.
The pages turn to stone. Behind the door, should I open it?
definitely a related song, but it's not the same song. The chorus, they're using a different chord progression. They took the chorus progression from Unforgiven 1 and put it into the verses this time.
Come lay beside me. This won't hurt, I swear. She loves me not.
She loves me not. She loves me still, but she'll never love
But she'll
again.
never love again. She lay beside me. But she'll be there when I'm gone. Like hot scarring darker steel. Yes, she'll be there when I'm gone. Yes,
So it's in a different time frame. If this follows this person named the Unforgiven, he's an older person, he's not a kid anymore. Now he's dealing with his mate, his lover, his significant other, right? Sick and tired, I stand alone. Or are you unforgiven too? I love the color of this in flats, by the way.
Tell me what I've done.
Lay beside me, tell me what I've done. The door's closed, so are your eyes.
But now I see the sun.
He's still blaming somebody else.
Sun. Yes, now I see it. What I felt, what I've known. Turn the pages, turn the stone. Behind
The lyrics also start on a different metrical part of the bar here. When he sings what I felt, what I've known, starts on the downbeat here. Doesn't do that in the first one, it comes on an offbeat.
stand alone. Could you be there? 'Cause I'm the one who waits. The one who waits for you.
He's waiting.
What I felt, what I've known. Turn the pages, turn the stone. Behind the door, should I open it for you? What I felt, what I know. I take this key and I bury it in you. Because you're unforgiven.
I take this key and I bury it in you. Because you're unforgiven too.
You're unforgiven too.
He's got a naturally strong voice. It's clear to me that he's never been really trained, and I think training may just completely change his color. And his color works for... Oh, shoot, sorry. That was the Unforgiven 3. I'm going to go back a little bit and make sure that I keep that one from starting. Okay, so what about Unforgiven 2? Is it a different song? Yeah, I think so. Is it related? Yes. But I found it interesting. They like I said, they moved the chord structure that we know from Unforgiven 1, and they put it right up front in the verses and in the intros for the Unforgiven II, and they have that same horn, that sort of reverse horn sound at the beginning, and it goes to G sharp instead of A, like it did before. Really, really interesting. Let's take a look at the Unforgiven III and finish this out. So this one comes from Death Magnetic, the 9th album, released in 2008, and James has said that it's a continuation of the same storyline about sin and consequence and forgiveness and grace. Okay, and this time they're with Robert Trujillo on bass instead of Jason Newsted. So let's take a look at the Unforgiven Part 3. Off we go. And of course, the difference is piano. I believe that's E minor. Yeah. And that's the same chord progression too. You might not think it. E minor to the 3, relative major, down to D, the 7, to the 5. Okay. So they go, lay soul. Slightly different. But the piano at the beginning is cool.
How could he know this new dawn's light would change his life forever?
Right.
Set sail to sea, but pulled off course by the light of golden
7,
treasure.
5, 1.
Was he the
It's a
one
different feel,
causing pain?
but they're reusing the same basic structure of the harmony to undergird this.
Always afraid of the things he
And where the last one was, he was really low in his voice during the verse, he's
gone. He would just sail on. You just sail on.
well, there's a lot of questions in this one. Older still.
How can I be lost if I've got nowhere to go? Search for seas of gold.
Yeah.
How come it's got so cold? How can I be lost in remembrance I relive? And how can I blame you
There it is.
when it's me I can't forgive? These days drift on inside a fog. It's thick and suffocating. His sinking life outside its hell, inside intoxicating.
This seeking life, a life of seeking, outside its hell, inside its toxicating.
Water much too shallow, slipping fast.
So they're using that same chord progression in the verses, but with a completely different riff and feel. Syncopation, anticipations rhythmically, it's going to its conclusion, right?
How can I be lost if I've got nowhere to go?
a chorus composed entirely of questions.
How can I be lost in remembrance I relive? And how can I blame you when it's me I can't forgive?
How can I blame you when it's me I can't forgive? I think he's finally learning, friends.
Forgive me.
I love the inclusion of the strings.
Forgive me.
Okay, so he's at the fork in the road. Forgive me or forgive me not?
Forgive me now.
What's it gonna be?
Forgive me. Forgive me not. Forgive me. Forgive me. Why can't I forgive me?
Biggest solo of the entire thing. Breakthrough. Woo! That's cool.
Set sail to sea, but pull off course by the light of golden treasure. How could he know?
How could he know this new dawn's light would change his life forever? So he has changed. He is older, he is wiser.
Be lost if I've got nowhere to go. Search for seas of gold. How come it's got so cold? How can I be lost in remembrance I relive?
There's a rawness to his vocals in general, but especially in songs that are this personal to him. Yeah. I'm glad I did this, y'all. I really am. I haven't heard those other two. And it's really interesting because, you know, I'm so familiar with the original Unforgiven, you know, because of hearing it all those times back in the day. It's been years since I've heard that, and it popped back in my memory just like it never left. And it was great to really kind of establish in my own mind once and for all what that song actually really was about, and then how these second and third songs fit into the ethos of the Unforgiven's story, right? Let's talk about just construction aspects of it. Are they three different songs? Yeah. They really are. They're in three different keys. The first one was in A minor. The second one was in G sharp minor. And the third one was in E minor. They have that same basic chord progression that, if I remember right, I'm going to go back to the, let's go to the original. Right? So we start on an A minor chord. We go up to the 3 chord, the C chord, right? Then it's going to go down to G, right? And then to the E major. Right? That's the basic progression that they're using, and they use it in the chorus in the first song, and they use it in the verses in the second and third songs. And each time it takes on a slightly different feel and sound and context. And I really like it. I really do. So in terms of meaning, in the original song, James is reflecting, right, on his strict religious, I think, upbringings, and how he lives with regret for his actions not aligning with his observations, with his thoughts, with his conclusions, and he feels unforgiven, not worthy of grace, especially by society, just kind of shunned, right? And then in the second version of the song, I think he's searching, he's older, right? He's searching for love and acceptance, I think. Before he was kind of a lost soul, and now that lost soul has been found by someone else. And he wants to open up and be vulnerable, and he wants to trust her. But it's hard for him because of just how closed off he has been to the world for so long. And so he feels unforgiven again, not worthy of grace, but this time by his mate, by his significant other. And so finally, when we get to the third version of the song, we find this more mature, more well-adjusted person, wiser with age, but he's so full of questions, right? And he's still searching for meaning. And the recurring question that I think is at the heart of this particular song: how can I blame you when it's me that I can't forgive? And so this time he is feeling unforgiven by himself. And I think it's a real turning point. I say that he's wiser in the third version of the song because he's finally, taking that on himself, blaming himself for his problems, for his own actions. And I think he's finally able to take responsibility and move forward. In the beginning, he was blaming society, then he was blaming a single person that's important in his life, and then finally, he's taking on that responsibility himself, and he's growing and learning, and he's ready to change, I think, his behavior and his outlook. And it matches what he has said, what James has said about all of this. Back in 2012, James said about the original song and about the sequels that after the Unforgiven III, we're kind of done with the song. I think now I am able to forgive myself and move on. And boy, what a powerful and personal gift for James to give us. The thing that I never connected to metal music was a deep sense of humanity, right? And that's my own problem and my own fault. I never gave the music time and attention to speak to me in that way. I heard aggressive sounds and aggressive rhythms and distortion, and I thought, well, they're just getting out their anger. And let them be. They're over there and they're doing their thing. I'm going to be over here with my sounds and do something different. And I kind of gave it a surface level label, and that was unfair. And the more that I've gotten into giving time, real academic approach to these songs that are done by metal and harder rock bands, I have found time and time again that these people are expressing their trepidations, their fears, their shortcomings, their hopes, their optimism, all of these same emotions that we all feel and they're taking care of all of that within their sounds, within the sounds that speak to them, and that's something that I have learned over these past couple of years to really respect and understand on a level that I had not before. And so doing a video like this, a reaction like this, where I get to dive into a recurring song, a recurring theme that this band is coming back to time and time again, it's a real, I think of it as a gift and not as some sort of, oh, we're just redoing the same song again because we might need to fill time on the album. I don't think that's what they're doing. I mean, think back to some different bands. If there was a big time, like, personal calling card for your band, and over the years they keep coming back and sort of reliving in that same song and in that same space, but they're filling it with what they've learned since the last time. That really feeds into the longevity and the authenticity of a band, of artists, right? Because they're thinking about what they feel now versus what they feel and understood before, and they're gonna continue to bring that to us. Wonderful stuff. And it's great to think, I think, to have Metallica on the Masterpiece Friday edition of the show for the first time. I've done lots of Metallica, but I don't think I've ever done them on a Friday show. And the Unforgiven, I think, is definitely one of our heavy metal ballad masterpieces. And I think the trilogy holds together quite well. Wonderful stuff. Thanks to Flamulator on our Patreon for suggesting this one, and to all of you Metallica fans for tuning in, and for all the rest of you. I think we've learned something today, right? Wonderful stuff. I think that is it for this week, though, my friends. We will be back next week with more episodes of the Daily Doug, but that's all for today. Thanks, y'all. We'll see you next time on another edition of the Daily Doug.